52 technology points. Zhao Yu stood at the entrance of the training camp. According to his previous plan, he intended to develop a mining plant and a chemical plant. With external enemies present, these constructions would have to be postponed. He always felt insecure without sufficient military power. After deliberating for a moment, Zhao Yu made a decision. First, he spent 40 technology points to train 40 soldiers, bringing the total number of soldiers to 100. This was equivalent to having a guard team, and the daily security work of the base would be entrusted to them. Of course, he didn't need so many people right now. The reason he trained so many was to send them to a secret military base for construction, accelerating the building process. Next, Zhao Yu spent another 10 technology points to train 5 land infantry, replenishing the squad of the sergeant to full strength. With this, the number of soldiers under his command surpassed 150, making his position as a centurion seem insufficient. Zhao Yu directly exchanged for a few sets of commander uniforms. He promoted himself to a military governor capable of managing 500 people. Zhao Yu temporarily handed over the base's security issues to the sergeant commander, entrusting him with the 20 strongest soldiers and also giving him 2 drone pilots. Currently, he didn't have many enemies, mainly guarding against retaliation from Wild Wolf Town. The remaining soldiers were divided into 2 groups. One group of 20 was sent to the camp outside the eastern gate to supervise the work of the newly joined 50-plus residents and to ensure their safety. The remaining 80 soldiers were taken by Zhao Yu to the secret base to join the bustling tree-cutting operation. A day passed in a flash. The next day, Zhao Yu received some good news. The secret base had cleared a space, ready for the relocation of the base. Given that the photovoltaic power plant was not very secure, only by moving the base to the secret military base could ensure their safety. After ensuring that no one was spying around, Zhao Yu quickly packed up the base, transforming it into a base car, and drove it to the secret military base to set it up again. After completing these tasks, Zhao Yu returned to the photovoltaic power plant and instructed the engineers to weld a few iron lumps, placing them where the base building was originally located. They were covered with tarpaulins for a basic disguise. Any news from Wild Wolf Town? None. As early as yesterday, Zhao Yu had sent out 5 recon soldiers to keep an eye on the movements of Wild Wolf Town. For this reason, he even spent a lot of points to get a set of communication equipment to facilitate the communication between the recon soldiers and the base. The matter of declaring war had already been handed over to Eagle. When exactly the message would be conveyed, Zhao Yu didn't know. These were minor issues. For Zhao Yu, the more time he could buy, the better. Given enough time, he would even dare to take a shot at Black Rock City. Of course, he didn't have the strength for that yet. This time, there were no tasks related to Wild Wolf Town, just a mission to clear out mutants in the old city, which seemed mundane. It's a good opportunity to collect some gasoline and fireworks. This task wasn't bad. Zhao Yu got up and went to the Ming House village camp to find Eagle. You're going to the old city? Yeah. Do you have any experience? Eagle didn't ponder the purpose of Zhao Yu's trip to the old city and directly offered some advice. Firstly, don't bring too many people. The old city has mutated beasts, radiation beasts, and mutants. Having too many people is not conducive to staying hidden. Once exposed, it's over. Secondly, be cautious of other humans. Huh? Zhao Yu quickly asked, what do you mean? The old city is not small. Before the apocalypse, it was a large city capable of accommodating millions of people, with abundant resources stored inside. Although it's now a territory of monsters and much of the resources in the outskirts have been scavenged over the years, it's still a prime scavenging location for many. Not only people from the wilderness go to the old city, but also those from Black Rock City, as well as Jaya City to the east and Manhwa City to the south. Zhao Yu had heard of Jake City and Manhwa City, which were also new cities established after the apocalypse. One to the south and one to the east, at least 300 kilometers away from their location, so they were not as well known as Black Rock City. However, these new cities were similarly distanced from the old city, and their construction likely took advantage of the resources in the old city. In the current era, characterized by scarcity, scavenging in the old city was not solely for oil. Many actually went there for cars and their parts. Black Rock City did not have the capability to build cars independently. The operational cars they had either came from the pre-apocalypse era or were imported at a high price from other cities. Besides cars, other high-tech products were also scarce in Black Rock City. In essence, Black Rock City was a typical local city, able to dominate locally but struggling to expand its influence. Of course, for the rulers of Black Rock City, the most valuable trade was not in weapons. Monopolize, even if it could only be circulated within a city, was enough for the ruler to control well. Therefore, the foundation of Black Rock City was actually hegemony. They relied on force to provide security within Black Rock City, and then used high prices to harvest the wealth of ordinary people. Correspondingly, Black Rock City could dominate the place, but it wouldn't work on outsiders. Even if they were merchants, foreign chambers of commerce wouldn't buy Black Rock coins. Even if they did, they would exchange them for goods before leaving. However, this did not affect the enjoyment of the upper echelons of Black Rock City. To them, it was something that could allow them to enjoy glory and wealth for generations. Now that they had everything they needed, they would naturally look for something that was scarce in Black Rock City to differentiate themselves from ordinary people and obtain a greater sense of superiority and satisfaction. Thus, the teams heading to the Old City aren't just pragmatically looking for useful items like oil and car parts. They also search for objects that could bring a sense of spiritual climax to the rulers of the city, like ancient paintings and antiques from the old era. Additionally, once in the Old City, it's best not to fire a gun unless absolutely necessary. Although unaware of Zhao Yu's purpose in the Old City, Eagle was still bound to him and didn't want Zhao Yu to run into trouble. It's a pity that Sister Ming is not here. Otherwise, with her leading, whatever you do in the Old City would be easier. But no worries, there's a large peace town on the south side of the Old City, with many strong individuals from the 3 cities and the wilderness. If you're going to enter the Old City, you can consider hiring some enhancers from Peace Town. Hiring? He could hire an enhancers for mission?
Yes.
Eagle smiled. The wilderness teams going to the Old City are usually after natural resources like oil that are easy to sell. Other things like car parts, without a specific channel, it's very difficult to sell them at a high price, and they're easy to be ripped off. Therefore, these items are usually obtained by the shops in the city who hire teams to help them obtain them. These teams rarely make trips to the Old City, so they usually take on some other missions along the way to make some extra money. If you're planning to go deep into the Old City, my advice is to first visit Peace Town. It's relatively safe there as far as we know, and its reputation is assured. Through his understanding, Zhao Yu gained a deeper insight into the Old City and the scavengers. Indeed, there's a method to the madness. Peace Town was established based on the Old City to serve the 3 cities. For outsiders, the most valuable thing is their cars, which can't be driven into the Old City and are prone to theft if left outside. Therefore, Peace Town emerged in response to this need, surviving on parking fees. This is a long-term business. Unless the profit is so tempting that Peace Town is willing to risk their reputation, they usually won't take any rash actions. Although Peace Town is a town, it can be called a small city. It has a permanent population of over 30,000 people, and with transient populations, it always has around 50,000 people. If I want to hire a team and if I want to park my vehicles in Peace Town, what should I use for payment? Neither Black Rock currency, Java currency, nor Manhwa currency will do. Eagle casually threw a handful of bullets and smiled. Under normal circumstances, weapons, ammunition, and food are solid currencies. Of course, if you're willing, oil is even more valuable. Considering the price per weight, oil is indeed easy to carry and valuable. But Zhao Yu himself needed it, so how could he sell it? Got it, thanks. No problem. If you really plan to go deep into the Old City, I advise against firing your guns recklessly. What happens if we fire a gun? Thousands of mutants will surround you, and it will also attract radiation beasts. If you see a radiation beast, run if you can. If you can't, just hurt it enough to make it flee. But never kill a radiation beast. Don't kill radiation beasts. Zhao Yu was well aware of this. He had seen firsthand at the farm how everything turned into mutants after killing a radiation beast. If they hadn't been far enough away, they might have mutated too. Zhao Yu didn't linger any longer. He left 2 rifles as payment and hurried back to the base. Really generous. Eagle picked up the 2 rifles. He too wished he could be as bold as Zhao Yu, casually giving away 2 weapons as payment. Damn, I'm not jealous of him. Anyway, we now have 10 vehicles and 10 machine guns. Sister Ming will probably be overjoyed when she returns. After returning to the base, Zhao Yu started preparing for the trip to the old city. He didn't plan to bring many people, 20 elite soldiers would suffice. As for vehicles, Zhao Yu took 6 standard 7-seat electric off-road vehicles and 1 pickup truck with a bed. The munitions factory had various models of trucks with carrying capacities ranging from several tons to several hundred tons. But each was a gas guzzler, which Zhao Yu couldn't afford to maintain now. On this trip, Zhao Yu didn't bring many weapons. He only took 2 rocket launchers and 5 machine guns, all mounted on the roofs of the off-road vehicles. Rifles, pistols, and sniper rifles are standard equipment. In addition to what was issued to the soldiers, Zhao Yu brought a considerable number of weapons, planning to use them as rent in Peacetown. After the preparations were complete, Zhao Yu led the soldiers out. Wild Wolf Town. A day has passed. Something must have gone wrong. Uncle Wang paced back and forth, his eyebrows furrowed in concern. It had been a day since Li Yang left. According to the distance, the enemy was located at the photovoltaic power plant, about 100 kilometers away. Even without highways, it would normally take 3 to 4 hours to drive there. In a day's time, there should be some news regardless of victory or defeat. Why is it taking so long? Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock at the door. Come in. Uncle Wang had sent people to the neighboring forces to gather information a few hours earlier. A burly man walked in with a grave expression. Instructor, there's bad news. This man was obviously trained under Uncle Wang and showed considerable respect in his demeanor. What happened? Uncle Wang felt a sinking feeling in his heart. It's reported that Brother Yang and his troops have been completely wiped out. What? How is this? Uncle Wang was shocked and quickly inquired about the situation. A village received intelligence, saying that Ming House Village and Zhao Family Village joined forces to defeat our men from Wild Wolf Town and have declared war on us. Not only that, they also revealed the details that they were forced to counterattack and declare war. Never mind that. What about Li Yang? He's dead. Uncle Wang filled with regret and anger. Instructor, what do we do now? The burly man asked in confusion. They want a war? Let's has the war. Uncle Wang said through gritted teeth. But WVE suffered losses at their hands twice, and even Li Yang fell there. This shows that their strength is not weak. Uncle Wang turned sharply towards the burly man. Are you suggesting we negotiate in peace? The burly man was not expecting the usually calm and composed instructor to lose his cool. He quickly clarified that he had no such intention, admitting that he had momentarily lost his composure. Spread the word. From today onwards, I will take over Wild Wolf Town. Tell everyone that Li Yang is dead, killed by the Ming House Village and Zhao Family Village. We must avenge this, blood for blood, and let the world know the might of Wild Wolf Town. Yes. The burly man was visibly pleased. Revenge might not have been his desire, but having the instructor take over Wild Wolf Town was far better than Li Yang being in charge. After all, the instructor's capabilities far exceeded Li Yang. I'll go and spread the word right now. The burly man hurriedly left. Once he was gone, Uncle Wang slumped into his chair, as if all his vitality had been drained. Li Yang, my son. He was unable to believe that this son had died so senselessly. Although he was aware of Li Yang's flaws, he thought that with his guidance, there wouldn't be any problems. Who could have known? Uncle Wang took a deep breath. After all, he was a man who had handled significant affairs. It only took him a moment to regain his composure. The sorrow on his face vanished, replaced by a murderous intent. Whoever dares to kill my son, I will make you pay with your lives. After a moment of contemplation, he entered a secret room and made a call to Black Rock City. Duru. After the ringtone rang 3 times, it was picked up by a young woman. Hello. I'm a stray dog wandering outside. I'm looking for young master. What does a wild dog like to eat? Eats ***T. Uncle Wang said expressionlessly. Even the code was insulting, but he had no choice. Who would have thought his backer was a lunatic? Hold on. A moment later, the call was transferred to a young man. Hello, stray dog, what do you want this time? Despite seeing the person's image, he still bent respectfully over the phone and said, Young master, someone has declared war on our wild wolf town, killed over 100 of our gunmen and leaders. Oh. The young man seemed intrigued and asked, Who did it? Meng House Village and Zhao Family Village. Never heard of them. What's their background? Two new forces in the wilderness. My main concern is whether they might have connections in the city. As you know, our people are not weak. The young man scoffed dismissively. Heh. From my view, your men are just trash. Yes, yes, yes. Uncle Wang didn't dare to contradict and agreeing submissively. But, even though they're trash, they should be fine for a skirmish in the wilderness. I'll ask around, see who's so bold as to mess with my dogs. Yes, yes, thank you, young master. After the call ended, Uncle Wang finally let out a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat from his face. Despite his ease in taking over the power in Wild Wolf Town, if he ever crossed with the young master, the latter could easily make him disappear. Fortunately, the young master was still one of their own. For the next while, Uncle Wang stayed by the phone, not daring to leave it even for a moment. About half an hour later, the phone rang. Uncle Wang waited until the third ring before answering. It was a requirement of the young master, who believed that answering on the third ring demonstrated noble qualities. Although he didn't understand it, he had to comply. I've checked, it's not related to Black Rock City. The young man seemed to lose interest, speaking lazily. Wilderness matters should be settled in the wilderness. Don't disgrace me. Eliminate the enemy quickly. Yes, 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 rest assured, young master. After hanging up the phone a second time, a look of ecstasy appeared on Uncle Wang's face. He had been worried that Zhao Family Village and Meng House Village had the someone supporting them from Black Rock City. Now it seemed they were just wilderness forces, and he could act boldly. I can't be careless. If they can intercept our goods and annihilate Li Yang's attacking team, they must be quite strong. Uncle Wang decided to make several preparations. On one hand, he sent people to gather intelligence from other areas. On the other hand, he dispatched scouts to the vicinity. He planned to understand the enemy's exact strength before launching an attack. Peacetown was about 150 kilometers away from the base. Zhao Yu's electric vehicle could travel 500 to 600 kilometers on a full charge, enough for a round trip. As he neared Peacetown, Zhao Yu encountered several groups of people also heading there. They were in several vehicles with a dozen or 20 people. Everyone tacitly avoided greeting each other or getting too close, choosing different routes to Peacetown. In the wilderness, being cautious of others was normal. When Zhao Yu's troop arrived at the outskirts of Peacetown, he understood what Eagle meant by city. From a distance, he could see a wall made of bricks and stones with orderly buildings inside. Through his binoculars, Zhao Yu even saw students with backpacks were going to school. The entire city seemed to radiate an atmosphere of peace. Maintaining such peace was not based on ideals, but on artillery. From a distance, Zhao Yu saw hundreds of armed soldiers in uniform patrolling the city. These were just the patrolling soldiers. Including those resting or on mission, Peacetown's forces must have exceeded 1,000. Really strong. Zhao Yu even spotted mortars and defensive cannons, something Wild Wolf Town certainly didn't possess. After observing for a while, he noticed that many teams were entering the city, paying a fee and then being allowed to pass without trouble from the guards. Zhao Yu felt reassured and drove his troops forward. Short stay or permanent? Short stay. Want to rent a house? You can park your vehicles there, and we'll compensate for any lost items. Just as Eagle described, renting a house meant registering vehicle information and the weapons and equipment stored inside. If anything was lost, Peacetown would compensate. Rent. Zhao Yu nodded. 6 vehicles, Section C, number 16. Here's your plaque. Go to number 16 to register. The soldier at the gate handed Zhao Yu a plaque and let him enter. Zhao Yu led his troop into the city. During his time there, some people were curious about the military rank on Zhao Yu's shoulder, but most didn't dare to pry and no one asked about it. After entering the city, Zhao Yu drove straight to Section C, number 16. After paying the price of 5 rifles, he rented the yard. Of course, the most expensive part was the insurance fee, calculated based on the value of the vehicles and items he parked in the yard. Any registered items lost were compensated for by Peace Town. This meant that even if Zhao Yu brought people into the city, his vehicles and the equipment on them would be safe and wouldn't be stolen. Parking his vehicles, Zhao Yu took a few people for personal protection and head to the hiring hub mentioned by Eagle. The market was large, with free entry and exit, specifically established by Peace Town to provide services to outsiders. Anyone going to Old City South 6 Rings Char Shu Road, Old City West 5 Ring Road, recruiting experienced enhancers, starting from level 2. The hiring hub was just like a vegetable market, with people shouting their needs and some writing down their requirements on signs for those who didn't want to exert effort. Zhao Yu walked around and found that most offers didn't match his destination. According to the task map, his destination was near the Old City West 3rd Ring. The deeper one went into the Old City, the more dangerous it became, and naturally fewer people ventured there. Correspondingly, danger and opportunity coexisted. The deeper areas often meant many resources hadn't been scavenged and were more likely to yield valuable finds. Just as Zhao Yu was hesitating whether to write a sign himself, he finally saw a sign for the West 3rd Ring. 3rd-tier enhancer leading the team to West 3rd Ring, looking for well-paying clients to join. The man holding the sign was burly, muscular, and looked intimidating. Zhao Yu quickly approached. "Are you guys going to the West 3rd Ring?" The man sized up Zhao Yu, and upon noticing the military rank of military governor on his shoulder, puzzled as to whether the rank was genuine. However, he didn't delve into it and nodded. "Yes, we have a task to find something in the West 3rd Ring. We can take people along the way. Are you joining?" Zhao Yu nodded to himself, agreeing with Eagle's assessment. Those teams that serve the big shots were hired specifically to search for something. "How many people do you have, and what are your capabilities?" Following Eagle's advice, he directly inquired about the price. 1 3rd-level enhancer, 2 2nd-level enhancers, and 4 1st-level enhancers. "We often search in the Old City and are very familiar with it. What do you think?" "Not bad. How much is the price?" Zhao Yu continued to ask. "How many people are you planning to bring? Just the 6 of you, or are there others?" Instead of quoting a price, the burly man inquired about Zhao Yu's situation. Zhao Yu's mission was to eliminate several hundred mutants in a certain area of the West 3rd Ring. A small number of people would definitely not suffice, so he had to take everyone with him. A total of 21 people. Is that okay? That many? The burly man was somehow astonished. This was his first encounter with so many people entering the Old City. Is that a problem? I can't decide on my own. Come with me and let's see what our team leader says." The burly man scratched his head and pointed to a tea house at the edge of the trading market. "Okay." The burly man put away his sign and led Zhao Yu to the nearby tea house, directly up to a private room on the 2nd floor. Several people were gathered inside the room and playing a card game. As burly man leading a stranger in, they immediately put down their cards. "Did you find a financier so quickly?" The speaker was a woman in her 20s, quite attractive. "Captain, they want to bring 21 people into the city." The burly man walked straight to the woman and spoke. Another 3rd-level woman. Zhao Yu had only seen 2 3rd-level enhancers before, and both were women. Bringing 21 people into the city? Everyone was shocked to hear it. The woman known as the captain stood up and extended her hand. "I'm Luo Bing, captain of the Bingqing battle team. What's your name?" "Zhao Yu." After shook her hand briefly, Zhao Yu noted the coolness of her touch. "Mr. Zhao," Luo Bing was about to speak when she suddenly noticed the military rank on Zhao Yu's shoulder. "Are you a commander?"
Yes.
Zhao Yu didn't deny it. Being new here, this identity could add some security. "May I know which side you're affiliated with?" Luo Bing asked cautiously. Although they were a well-known battle team in Peace Town, they were insignificant compared to a military governor ranked of commander. "I prefer not to disclose that," Zhao Yu said indifferently. This drew some dissatisfaction from the others, and they expressed it on the spot. "You know you can't use guns in the Old City, right? You can get in, but not out." Luo Bing nodded his understanding. She thought about it and realized she didn't need to fear this commander. Whether real or fake, they were only going to cooperate once. Even if they couldn't agree, there wouldn't be any cooperation. I know. Zhao Yu coughed. Several hundred mutants couldn't be dealt with by assassination alone, so Zhao Yu knew he inevitably had to resort to using firearms. The only thing to do was to safely reach the destination, eliminate the target, and then retreat. 21 people is a bit too many. I'm curious about what you plan to do. Sorry, it involves privacy. I can't disclose it. Luo Bing's expression turned a bit grim. Going in without knowing the employer's purpose seemed inappropriate. However, she didn't rush to refuse. After all, Zhao Yu was a military governor and likely not short of money. Can I at least know what your requirements are? Just safely get us to our destination. One way. Luo Bing was somewhat surprised. You mean, we just need to get you there, and don't have to bring you back out? That's right. Smiles appeared on the faces of those present. The most troublesome task was a round trip, especially bringing 21 people out intact. They didn't want to take on such a risky job. But now, bringing 21 people in was much simpler. Don't you need our help to find something? Luo Bing asked tentatively. No need. Zhao Yu smiled slightly. He had already gained an initial understanding of the hiring hub during his previous round of inquiries. He planned to directly hire cheaper teams to help him search for fireworks and firecrackers. After all, these were finished products made by adding a large amount of magnesium and aluminum powder to a small amount of black powder for color and volume. Unless someone with the expertise could separate and purify these chemical components, they were not very useful. On the other hand, forces capable of manufacturing ammunition would not bother to decompose and purify fireworks and firecrackers. It was time-consuming, labor-intensive, and inefficient. Therefore, Zhao Yu believed that aside from the initial attempts at the start of the apocalypse to use fireworks as explosives, people now hardly wasted time on this. Because many realized that apart from being used for display, these items had no other purpose. The difficulty of taking all 21 of you into the city is high, and we have to assume a lot of risk. Zhao Yu interrupted Luo Bing and said directly, Name your price. Swift and decisive, indeed the style of the military. 10 rifles, what do you think? Deal. Zhao Yu agreed immediately. This left everyone momentarily stunned. They had never encountered such straightforward business, truly befitting a commander of a major force, wealthy and bold. However, Luo Bing was cautious and added, 80% of the rifles must be new. You know, with guns, the older they are, the more likely they are to malfunction and the harder to sell. No problem. Zhao Yu smiled lightly. The weapons he brought on this trip were nearly brand new. Good. According to the rules, you pay half up front. Luo Bing quickly explained to avoid any misunderstanding. Once the deposit is paid, we can set off right away. Zhao Yu paid the deposit on the spot and agreed to meet him at his residence in an hour. He returned to the hiring hub and hung up a sign to buy fireworks. These items were not of high value and rarely searched for. There was an abundance of them in the old city, mostly in the peripheral areas. Soon, several teams approached Zhao Yu. With the price of few rifles, Zhao Yu signed agreements with several relatively weaker teams that could only operate in the outskirts. Unlike Luo Bing, who demanded half the deposit up front, these smaller teams only asked for 1/5 of the deposit. Zhao Yu wasn't worried about them taking the money and not doing the job because this was a platform set up by Peacetown. Each team and employer had to register, and the transactions were certified by Peacetown officials. Before the completion of the transaction, the items in their residences couldn't be moved, acting as a deposit. If one party breached the contract, compensation would be deducted from the items in their residence. When he returned to his lodging, Luo Bing and her team had already been waiting at the door for a long time. After greeting them, Zhao Yu gathered all the soldiers in the courtyard. You're bringing so many guns? Each of Zhao Yu's soldiers was armed, not just with rifles and sniper rifles, but even 2 had machine guns. Luo Bing was uncertain and worried about it. From the bulging waist packs of the soldiers, it was apparent they also carried grenades. Additionally, almost every soldier had a tactical backpack filled to the brim, though it was unclear what exactly they contained. We're planning to infiltrate. There's no need to engage in a firefight with the mutants. Luo Bing reminded them. Zhao Yu nodded slightly. Don't worry. My people won't act recklessly, but we still need to bring the guns. He noticed that Luo Bing's 7-person team only carried 2 guns and didn't seem to have spare magazines. Apart from firearms, he even saw them carrying more primitive weapons like knives and swords. Everyone exchanged glances but didn't say much. After all, Zhao Yu was the financier. Let's go. Luo Bing, with no other choice, led the way in a certain direction. Zhao Yu naturally followed closely with his people. The group arrived at the north gate of Peace Town, which seemed even busier than the west gate where Zhao Yu had first entered. Many people were shouting at the entrance. Going to the old city, 2 bullets. Old city, anyone? After listening for a while, Zhao Yu realized they were calling out for a shuttle service between the old city and Peace Town. From their uniform attire, it seemed to be an official operator of Peace Town. As Zhao Yu and his group's large-scale arrival, the vendors were overjoyed and rushed up to ask if they were interested. Before Zhao Yu could speak, Luo Bing glanced through the crowd and smiled. I've made arrangement. Immediately, a woman in her 30s, looking delighted, emerged from the crowd, causing the others to disperse. Sister Bing. Although she looked older, she called Luo Bing elder sister.
Hello, Juan.
Luo Bing greeted her without taking offense, then indicated the number of people in their party. With so many people, we might need a minibus. Huang Wan led Zhao Yu and the others to the outside the north gate of Peace Town, explaining as they walked. Usually, the vehicles going to the old city are small, ranging from 4 to 7 seats. But we have too many people. We can either rent several small cars or just one minibus. Zhao Yu had learned from Eagle that the cost of renting vehicles for trips between Peace Town and the old city was borne by the financier. This was why other teams were willing to take on such tasks, as it saved costs and provided extra earnings. Let's go with the minibus. Zhao Yu nodded in agreement. This time, they couldn't use their vehicles, as leaving them outside the old city would require someone to watch over them. Therefore, they had to leave their vehicles in the secure Peace Town and rent a vehicle there for the trip to the old city. The group quickly arrived at a minibus, apparently a converted old public bus, still bearing traces of its former use. How about this bus? Huang Wan asked proudly. The interior space was limited. Though 20-plus people could squeeze in, it wasn't necessary. He needed to ensure his soldiers could react in emergencies. Do you have a bigger vehicle? A bigger vehicle? Huang Wan was startled for a moment. Then she seemed to understand. A bigger vehicle, would a truck do? She asked excitedly. Such a big customer was first for her, but a good opportunity nonetheless. The bigger the vehicle, the higher the price and the more commission she could earn. Soon, Zhao Yu surveyed the truck area and chose a spacious truck. All right, let's go. I'll take you to pay. Huang Wan's face beamed with joy as she led Zhao Yu to Peace Town's official registration and rental office. 1 rifle at new or 500 rifle bullets. Zhao Yu immediately handed over a rifle. He had been briefed by Eagle about the situation between the old city and Peace Town and had prepared the rental fee in advance, ensuring it wouldn't affect the soldiers' combat capabilities. The staff member checked the gun briefly, then registered the previously viewed large truck's license plate. Under Huang Wan's watchful eye, her name was smoothly filled in the driver's column. Only then did she finally relax, leading Zhao Yu and the others towards the large truck. Although Zhao Yu had heard about the situation here from Eagle, he was still curious and couldn't help asking a few questions. Are these cars from Peace Town? Yes. Are you the drivers they hired? Yes, that's right. We're all drivers, but we have to do it ourselves. After confirming that she could get the commission for a large truck, Huang Wan was overjoyed and said a lot along the way. Soon, the group arrived at the vehicle, which had 3 seats in the front besides the driver's seat. At the moment, there was a light drizzle in the sky, and Zhao Yu naturally didn't want to get wet. He pulled the sergeant along to sit in the back row of the front. Luo Bing, as the captain of the team, sat in the passenger seat, while the rest were all crammed into the truck bed. There was a small incident when boarding the vehicle. Zhao Yu gave the command. As a result, the 20 soldiers boarded in an orderly and well-trained manner, impressively demonstrating their discipline. This left Luo Bing and others speechless, and they started to believe more in the rank of commander on Zhao Yu's shoulder. After all, Only such a significant figure could possess such professional soldiers. Is it just you driving? Zhao Yu noticed that Huang Wan was the only driver, without even a guard. It's not far from here to the old city, just 2 hours away. I'm not talking about that. I mean, aren't you afraid of someone hijacking the vehicle with just you driving? Huang Wan laughed and said while driving, those who can rent cars all have residences in town, and those items act as a deposit. As for outsiders, on this piece of land, no one dares to rob a car from Peace Town, she said proudly. Zhao Yu nodded slightly, understanding the situation. After all, Peace Town seemed to be developing well. The first source of income was from the residences, and the second was from shuttling between Peace Town and the old city. To establish the second income, they probably had to eliminate many private transport vehicles to monopolize it completely. The truck was fast, and there was a relatively smooth dirt road between Peace Town and the old city, obviously maintained by Peace Town. Cars occasionally overtook them on both sides, causing Huang Wan to grumble. However, the joy in her eyes clearly still immersed in the emotions of a significant commission from this deal. 2 hours later, the vehicle arrived at its destination, a place not smaller than an average stronghold. The security was tighter here, with over 300 guards and numerous heavy weapons. Huang Wan was very friendly. She asked about the return time of Zhao Yu and others, agreeing to continue as the driver when they returned before parted ways. The stronghold was not small and had a trading market. Many people were hawking items scavenged from the old city, but most were not much valuable. Commander Zhao, shall we go straight in? After walking around with Zhao Yu, Luo Bing couldn't help but ask. All right, let's go in. There were many teams entering the city. Most of them actually unarmed. Zhao Yu with 20 fully armed soldiers was unique, attracting a lot of attention. Several battle teams looked at them with a mocking gaze, as if they were watching a bunch of rookies entering the city. Luo Bing was feeling helpless. Under normal circumstances, she knew that guns shouldn't be used when entering the city, but what could she do if the sponsor wouldn't listen? Pick up the pace. Luo Bing shouted and quickly ran in a certain direction. The outer city area was almost completely cleared of mutants, so it was relatively safe. After the group had traveled a distance, they barely saw any other teams entering the city. No one wanted to travel with others. Even if they encountered other teams, they would tactfully separate. Another 10 minutes passed, and Zhao Yu finally saw the first wave of mutants after entering the city. In front of them was an old, poorly maintained bridge with about a dozen mutants wandering aimlessly on it. Zhao Yu and his group were hiding in a 2-story building, peering out cautiously. How should we handle this situation? It was Zhao Yu's first time in the old city, and he had been very talkative along the way as learning many tips about entering the city from Luo Bing. He planned to lead a team for exploration when the opportunity arose. There are 2 methods. One is to clear them out directly, the other is to draw the mutants away. Many usually would definitely choose to draw the mutants away, but our team is different. We are quite strong. Zhao Yu pointed ahead. What are those people trying to do? Luo Bing quickly looked and saw a man in sportswear emerging from a building and rapidly approaching the bridge. He's probably trying to draw the mutants away. He's from another team. Although Luo Bing's team had entered the old city several times, they didn't recognize all the teams. In fact, they knew very few teams, mostly from Black Rock City. They didn't bother to learn about teams like this. Looks like we don't have to take action. Let them draw the mutants away, then we'll move in. Okay. Zhao Yu curiously observed how the man would handle the situation. Soon, the man reached the vicinity of the bridge and deliberately made some noise from a distance. Swish. The mutants on the bridge all turned their heads in unison. On detecting signs of a living person, they swarmed out. The man turned around and ran. He was very fast, a speed that even Zhao Yu couldn't match. However, Luo Bing murmured, "He's not an enhancer." Zhao Yu's interest peaked. Isn't he an enhancer? No. Luo Bing shook her head. An enhancer's speed wouldn't be this slow. Even a first-tier strength enhancer would be faster than that. Han Xiao, standing beside them, explained, I'm a first-tier agility enhancer, and my speed is 2 to 3 times faster than him. Not only enhancers come to the old city, but ordinary people dare to come too.
Yes.
There are always some bold people who want to try their luck, Luo Bing explained. Shush. She quickly put her finger to her lips, signaling everyone to be quiet. Outside the window, the man leading the mutants away was heading down their street. Mutants relied not only on their hearing but also had a good sense of smell. He and his soldiers, having access to water and electricity at the base, were quite clean and without any particular odor. But the members of the Bingqing battle team, especially Luo Bing and Han Xiao, seemed to have sprayed some perfume to mask certain smells. As expected, as the man ran past, the mutants that were pursuing him suddenly stopped, as if they had smelled something more appetizing. Luo Bing had planned to stay in Peacetown for at least a day, but they had found a sponsor shortly after arriving, so the scent of her perfume hadn't faded yet. It looks like we have to take action. Zhao Yu smiled slightly and subconsciously reached for his gun. No. Luo Bing quickly pressed down his gun and said, "Let us handle it. You really shouldn't fire a gun. Remember, in the old city, never fire a gun." All right. Zhao Yu abandoned the idea of taking action and left the situation to Luo Bing and the others. The mutants downstairs had already locked onto them, with several of them charging into the building. Take them out. Luo Bing seemed to want to redeem the Bingqing battle team's image in the eyes of their sponsor. 2 of her 6 teammates immediately stepped forward, grinning fiercely as they pounced on the mutants downstairs. Bang! Puff! Crack! There was a series of noises from downstairs, and a moment later, the 2 enhancers who had gone downstairs came back up. Done? Then let's go across the bridge. Luo Bing stood up and jumped out of the window. The other enhancers followed her, and leaping out one after another. Zhao Yu was speechless, feeling that these enhancers seemed to be showing off in front of him. But he didn't say much, leading his people to honestly took the stairs down. Jumping down from the 2nd floor wasn't difficult for Zhao Yu. He could do it too. However, with all the equipment he was carrying, jumping down like that could easily lead to fractures. It wasn't worth it just to show off. Just as they stepped out of the building, Luo Bing apologized. "I forgot you guys are ordinary people. Next time we'll take the stairs." "It's okay." Zhao Yu waved his hand, indicating that moving across the bridge was more important. Thus, the group hurriedly proceeded towards the bridge. Unbeknownst to them, as they passed the building the man had left earlier, a young man's head popped out from the upper floor. "Thank you." He seemed to be a young man, unsure whether to show himself or not. "It's no big deal. With your strength, it's better to search the outskirts," Luo Bing said indifferently, not turning her head as she continued to walk forward. The young man watched them with envy, secretly clenching his fist, determined to save up enough money to join the Reed group and become an enhancer. Zhao Yu noticed that after she walked past, the corners of her mouth slightly turned up, seemingly pleased with her own performance. Zhao Yu inwardly chuckled, realizing she wasn't as mature as he had thought. The group crossed the bridge smoothly and walked a few hundred meters further when they encountered another wave of mutants. This time, they showed enough professionalism. They spotted the mutants from 100 meters away and promptly took Zhao Yu and others into hiding in a building. "There are people in that building." Luo Bing pointed towards a distant building. Zhao Yu looked and saw that this wave of mutants was not aimlessly wandering, but launching an attack on a building. There were more than 20 mutants, even more than the previous wave. Zhao Yu remained silent, curious to see how Luo Bing would handle it. "We're planning to make a move to rescue them," Luo Bing directly revealed her intention. "Taking a detour might encounter other mutants. The best way is still to deal with them." "Okay." Zhao Yu nodded, gesturing for them to proceed as they wished. Luo Bing glad that Zhao Yu was understanding and not overthinking. "Xiao, Ming, you two attract the mutants. At that intersection, lead them to the left and right sides." She turned to her teammates and instructed them. After a short discussion about the tactics, the rest of her team hurried off. After waiting for a moment, Zhao Yu heard several bird calls. He saw Luo Bing put her hand to her mouth, forming a hand shape, and whistled a bird call as well. 2 enhancers appeared in front of them, rushing towards the mutants. They made no effort to hide their movements and were quickly discovered by the mutants. Immediately, the mutants split into 3 groups. One stayed to continue attacking the building, while the other 2 chased after the enhancers. This was followed by another round of fighting that was out of sight.
Bugu. Bugu.
Let's go. Luo Bing stood up and smiled. They're done. This time, she did not jump out of the window. Instead, she led Zhao Yu and the others down the stairs. The previous time, she could at least cover it up by forgetting, but the second time, it would be a provocation, so she was very honest. Zhao Yu also understood that Luo Bing and the others had intentionally shown him that entering the city was their home ground and that it was not a loss to hire them. After reaching the intersection and meeting up with the other 6 enhancers, Zhao Yu finally saw the mutants that had been taken care of. All the mutants lay dead in a clean and efficient manner, except for one that seemed to have been struck by a heavy object and was dismembered. The others died peacefully, killed with a single blow. Zhao Yu glanced at a muscular second-tier enhancer in his team, suspecting he was responsible for the brutal efficiency. He seemed like a strength-type enhancer. When they reached the intersection, the 5 or 6 mutants originally guarding the building also charged at them. The muscular second-tier enhancer, without a word, charged straight into the fray. The two sides clashed in close combat. Before the leading mutant could even swing its tail, it was struck head-on. Boom! A shower of blood followed. This brutal scene left Zhao Yu speechless. He was certain that with the man's strength, dealing with the mutants could have been done more elegantly. Not like now, covered in blood. 2 more members from the team took out the remaining mutants. The muscular enhancer returned to the team, grinned at Zhao Yu, exuding a fierce aura. The blood of the mutants can mask our scent, as if his blood-soaked state was intended to cover their smell. Luo Bing didn't bother to respond and headed straight for the building. The others followed closely. Han Xiaoxiao stopped Zhao Yu. Boss, maybe you should wait a moment. What's the matter? There are survivors upstairs. Let the captain negotiate first before we know their situation. Zhao Yu understood that they were concerned about potential conflicts affecting their safety. After a while, Luo Bing and the others came downstairs, and Zhao Yu noticed they seemed to have acquired some additional items. A handgun. Was it a reward for resolving the crisis of the people upstairs? Zhao Yu realized why Luo Bing and her team had decided to deal with that group of mutants. Apart from the concern of taking a detour, it was more about the opportunity for some extra gain. Soon, Zhao Yu and his group set off again. As they passed the building, several figures appeared at the windows. Without speaking, they just brought their hands together and nodded in a gesture of thanks for the help provided. Luo Bing remained as before, her face frosty and aloof, striding forward with a catwalk-like gait. This immediately drew a wave of envy from the people upstairs. This woman seems to like showing off in public. Zhao Yu shook his head, not thinking too much about it. As long as this mission is completed, that's all that matters. The group cleared 2 more waves and temporarily stopped on an overpass. We've reached the 6th ring. Luo Bing took out a map and discussed about the route ahead. If we encounter this situation, we need to be more cautious. Her expression turned serious. Zhao Yu was confused, thinking to himself that it was them who had been showing off everywhere before. Cough, cough. She seemed to realize this, and with a slightly flushed face, explained, the surrounding of the 6th ring, we only encounter small group, so there's no fear of disturbing them. But inside the 6th ring, the density of mutants is higher. Even for us, we need to be careful not to attract more mutants, which can lead to trouble. Understood? Zhao Yu nodded. As long as we can reach our destination, we can do it. Great. Luo Bing said a few more words before leading the team on the road again. During the journey, they encountered another team. This time a warning was signaled from a distance. Luo Bing led her team to bypass the area. It's different here from outside the 6th ring, Luo Bing explained softly. Those who dare to enter the 6th ring are all enhanced teams, and there might be masters among them. It's better not to approach rashly to avoid misunderstandings. Yeah. Zhao Yu understood and could see the caution of the others from a distance. The journey ahead, though not as fast as before, but it was skillfully navigated by Luo Bing. She led them in a winding path, avoiding many mutants. Even for those they couldn't avoid, Han Xiaoxiao would step in, lured the mutants away to regroup at the next rest point. A journey that should have taken an hour took 2 to reach the vicinity of the 5th ring. This time, the group stopped outside a large bridge. Too many. Luo Bing's expression was grave. There were over 300 mutants on the bridge, and even with agile enhancers in the team, escaping was not easy. What do we do now? 1. Zhao Yu also noticed this situation. If they couldn't cross this bridge, reaching another side would take too long. Wait a bit. Let's see how they do it. Luo Bing pointed to a distant place, smiling faintly. I've sensed several groups already, probably other combat teams. Zhao Yu saw nothing unusual, piquing his curiosity. Third-tier enhancers can sense their kind. At our level, it's hard to be ambushed, Luo Bing said proudly. Zhao Yu didn't ask further as she would not explain it logically. The group waited in the building for about 10 minutes. Someone's moving. Luo Bing suddenly sensed some movement outside. She pointed in a direction, her eyelids drooping, not looking there but sensing in some other way. After a moment, her face showed surprise. What happened? Zhao Yu asked curiously. Luo Bing pointed to the rooftop, and the group followed. With her guidance, Zhao Yu finally saw the condition of the other team. At a point 200 meters from the bridge, figures were seen swimming across the river. They chose to swim across this water. Zhao Yu glanced at the green, oily river water and the unknown floating objects in it, feeling disgusted. These guys, they'd rather swim. Luo Bing scratched her head, as she was not expecting someone to be so cautious as to swim in such dirty water. Zhao Yu reminded, one don't want to swim. Don't worry, neither do I. Luo Bing shook her head. While everyone was hesitating, Luo Bing suddenly said, someone is coming. It must be to discuss how to cross the bridge. Indeed, soon someone approached, calling out in a low voice, friends upstairs, can we talk? Come in. Luo Bing replied indifferently. A man in his 30s walked up. When he saw Zhao Yu and the others fully armed, he was startled, but soon realized that these people might be the financiers, with the real decision-making power lying with Luo Bing and her group. Hello, I am from the Lion Mercenary Group, the man said with a hint of pride. Luo Bing and the others became serious at this. Zhao Yu grew curious. While Luo Bing was negotiating with the man, he pulled Han Xiaoxiao aside to ask about the Lion Mercenary Group. The Lion Mercenary Group is a power in our Blackstone City, Han Xiaoxiao explained. Blackstone City is just over 100 kilometers to the west, and it's the largest city in our region. Normally, teams like ours with 7 enhancers are called combat teams. But there are also groups with greater strength and more people, named as mercenary groups. They have a lot of people? Zhao Yu asked curiously. Yes. Every group that can be called a mercenary group has at least 100 members. 100 people doesn't seem like much? Zhao Yu was puzzled. Han Xiaoxiao speaking solemnly. They are all enhancers. What? Zhao Yu was startled. A team comprised entirely of enhancers was no small matter. As Zhao Yu finally taking it seriously, Han Xiaoxiao continued. The Lion Mercenary Group is a significant force in Blackstone City, with at least 150 enhancers in their team, and more than 1,000 in logistics and firepower support. Their missions are diverse, ranging from helping others attack towns to assisting in defending territories. They also help some nobles search for things in the old cities. Then why do they need to cooperate with us? Zhao Yu asked. Han Xiaoxiao explained. That's because the Lion Mercenary Group rarely deploys its entire force for a mission. Tasks that require the full mobilization of the Lion Mercenary Group are rare, almost never encountered. So, those who came this time are probably from a combat team under the Lion Mercenary Group. I see. It was essentially enhancers affiliated with the Lion Mercenary Group. On the other side, Luo Bing breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing that the Lion Mercenary Group had sent only 5 people. Her tone in the negotiations gradually became more assertive. You're a third-tier enhancer? The man's initial arrogance dissipated upon learning of Luo Bing's status, and he began to show her respect. Indeed. Luo Bing replied indifferently. Luo Bing was naturally aware of the Lion Mercenary Group's reputation and initially intimidated by their name. However, she was a third-tier enhancer herself. If she wished, she could have integrated her team into the Lion Mercenary Group or some other more famous mercenary group, and even obtained a leading position and resources. Therefore, the man didn't dare to be arrogant and honestly laid out their plan. It wasn't much of a plan, Just the usual strategy of luring the mutants away from the bridge and then crossing it quickly. This time, it involved 5 teams, each contributing at least one person. They discussed where their respective agile enhancers should lure the mutants away. Zhao Yu didn't participate in the discussion, but noticed Han Xiao's gradually relaxed. Luo Bing must have secured a favorable position for her. After a short while, the negotiations ended, and the man left satisfied. As the organizers, the Lion Mercenary Group certainly wouldn't put their own people in the most dangerous positions. After he left, Luo Bing shared the details of the negotiation. There are 5 teams around, and the leaders are just second-tier enhancers. I'm the strongest, so I got the best position. She informed Han Xiao about the position details. Afterward, she led Zhao Yu and the others to the prearranged location. Now we just wait. Han Xiao had already left, and Luo Bing was staying beside Zhao Yu, briefly introduced the situation. However, she turned to look at the soldiers, filled with astonishment. Since entering the city, she noticed that these soldiers had never spoken a word. In such an environment, soldiers who remain silent and show no signs of tension are extremely frightening. She recalled the soldiers in Blackstone City. None of those she had seen seemed as formidable as Zhao Yu's men. Elite. Luo Bing predicted that the soldiers accompanying Zhao Yu as his subordinates must be the elite of the elite. Fortunately, they were on the side of her. Luo Bing smiled, unconcerned about Zhao Yu's purpose for entering the city and going to the third ring. After all, her task was simply to escort them there. With the guarantee from Peacetown, even if Zhao Yu and his team died in the old city, their vehicles and weapons left in their rooms could be sold to fulfill the remaining transaction. Boom, boom, boom. Before she could ponder further, the noise from a distance signaled that the action had begun. Zhao Yu curiously observed the situation. 300 mutants were led away by an enhancer, and at a crossroads, another enhancer diverted them onto another street. Luo Bing explained, luring the mutants, especially in a relay like this, is safest for those who go last. The mutants tend to focus on the first person, so the first one is the most dangerous and hardest to escape. Zhao Yu nodded. After all, the further back in the sequence, the fewer mutants were diverted, naturally reducing the danger. As the 2 men split and led the mutants down 2 separate streets, Zhao Yu could no longer see what was happening behind them. However, he could hear the mutants' noises growing fainter. After a while, Zhao Yu saw a group of 4 people appearing on the street, rushing towards the bridge. Let's go. Luo Bing led Zhao Yu and the others to follow. As everyone reached the bridge, several teams converged. The Lion Mercenary Group had no financiers with them, while others, like Luo Bing's team, had some outsiders. But none of the teams were like theirs, with around 20 fully armed people. The accompanying teams privately speculated, wondering what Zhao Yu and his team intended to do with their weapons in the city. Are they planning to attack the mutant beasts? Unlikely. Mutant beasts are not something a few people can handle. Or maybe, radiation beasts? No one dared to question them. After all, Zhao Yu's group were not something these scattered combat teams could afford to mess with.